Today on Upfront, calls to abolish the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, or ICE. Next, the Madison area Democrat proposing the drastic action, how he says the president is misusing the agency. Then Senate leaders declaring Tammy Baldwin a frontrunner in Wisconsin's Senate race, why the announcement has Baldwin herself sounding the alarm. And a vote to select the Democratic nominee for governor weeks before the actual election.
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Upfront with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Upfront. Should the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, ICE, be abolished? That question is rapidly becoming a hot-button issue in this year's midterm elections, and a Wisconsin congressman is at the heart of the debate. Following claims of mass deportations and families being separated at the border, Madison area Democrat Mark Pocan has introduced legislation in Washington to get rid of ICE. The agency was established in 2003 after 9/11 and has more than 20,000 employees and 400 offices across the U.S. and the world. According to its website, its core mission is to protect America from cross-border crime and illegal immigration that threaten national security. But some Democrats claim the president is misusing the agency, and they want it gone. Congressman Mark Pocan joins me now by satellite from Washington. And Congressman, it's good to have you back on the program.
Thank you, Mike. Glad to be here.
Very briefly, explain why you think ICE should be abolished.
Well, the problem with ICE right now with this president is it's being misused. The president is using it as his own kind of personal police force, his personal deportation force. Instead of going after serious crime and terrorism, like it was created after 9/11, which is the reason it was created, he's now using it to go after people with speeding tickets or decade-old violations when they were teenagers, or sitting in the parking lot in Beloit, Wisconsin at the Head Start program to round people up to deport them to try to justify the need for a wall. And that's a clear violation of everything that they're supposed to do. In fact, I would argue if you're busy going after people with speeding tickets, you're not going after people who are doing human trafficking or other serious crime, and it's unable to accomplish its goals. So what we're saying is let's get this done right. Let's transfer the appropriate responsibilities that ICE does have to other agencies to get them done, like that's not happening right now. And let's get rid of all the stuff that the president's done that have made this agency unable to accomplish its mission.
So you say the president has misused it, but you and I have both seen polls in recent days that suggest that most Americans think ICE should continue. It should not be abolished. I think it's 54, 55%. Even Democrats, while there's a plurality supporting the abolishment of ICE, it does not constitute a majority of Democrats.
Well, and I think if you asked me that simple 15-word question that they asked in that poll, I would have said no, because we're not saying get rid of the responsibilities that they do. There are many important responsibilities, but right now they can't accomplish their mission because of the misuse that the president's done by having them go after all these other side crimes in order to try to prove, or not even crimes, past activities, to prove the need for a wall. So I think if we actually polled the question that we're putting out there, you would get a very, very different response.
Are you concerned about the possible political consequences? It looks like Republicans were saying, hey, we might consider bringing your proposal to abolish ICE to the floor for a vote. Are you worried about that? Because the story I saw said that you would vote against your own proposal if they did that.
Yeah, so the Republicans, I think, were trying to be clever, and they've gotten all kinds of bad press here in Washington for being too clever by half, by saying, okay, fine, we're going to force a vote next week. As you know, often a bill is introduced, and you build support on that because you have to have a vehicle to start talking about getting organizational support, etc. But they're not serious about reforming ICE at all. So for them to do that, we're like, okay, fine, we're not going to do that, but we're going to fully take advantage. If you're going to give us an hour of time on the floor of the House of Representatives to talk about separating kids from their parents and jailing 5-year-olds with their mothers, we'll have at it. We would love to have that debate. So if that's what Paul Ryan wants to do, he has been absolutely unable to give us any time to talk about these subjects because they're afraid to take on the president. I cherish the moment to have those debates on the floor of Congress.
You went to the border to see for yourself conditions there. What about since then? How do you feel about the urgency that has gone into reuniting parents and children.
It's pathetic, the fact that they separated children from families, but they did it without any thought. So now they're trying to figure out who belongs to who, and they're deporting parents before they're letting children be out of the country, so they can't even reunite. It's a complete mess because this was done by presidential decree without any thought or any planning whatsoever. So we're saying the court said this is a mandate. It's not a suggestion. You have to reunite the families, and they're first now getting around to dealing with some of this. This is un-American, it's inhumane, it's cruel, and we want to force Congress and the president to bring families back together, and let's have a humane immigration system. Right now, we're stopping people at legal points of entry who are claiming asylum, which is international law, and we're not allowing them to. That's why we're forcing people then to come in either illegally or they have to go back to Mexico and risk being kidnapped by cartels. We talk to people where that's happened. So there are a lot of issues that I would love to have a debate on the floor of Congress, and if Paul Ryan wants to be too cute by half, bring it on. Let us talk about this because the American people agree with us. You should not take kids away from their parents.
I want to talk Wisconsin politics for just a few remaining seconds. I don't have a lot of time here, but you've been a strong supporter of Randy Bryce, who's running for Congress in the 1st Congressional District. Are you worried about the state of his campaign? We've had this drip, drip, drip of negative stories about arrests, about child support payments. Are you worried about his candidacy at this moment?
No, I mean, of course, they see him as the front runner, right? The Republicans, they're going to attack him in every way possible. But, you know, if you have a 20-year ago DUI, is he regretful? Of course, he said that. But he's not the same person he was 20 years ago. And you know what? There's a lot of people in Wisconsin that are exactly like Randy Bryce. I wish in Congress we had more people like Randy Bryce who come from a working class background, who aren't, you know, half of my colleagues are millionaires up here. That is not representative of America. His likely opponent is a corporate lawyer who's outsourced jobs to Mexico. And I grew up in that district. 14,000 people used to make cars in Kenosha. No one does today. I think they're going to identify far more with a guy who admits he's had some past faults but has walked in their shoes than someone who's outsourced their jobs to Mexico. So I'm strongly in support of Randy.
Final question. Some people thought it was interesting. Earlier in the week, you were asked about Kelda Roys, who ran against you for Congress back in 2012 and who's running for governor this time around. You were asked if you thought that she was honest and authentic, and newspaper accounts seem to suggest that you didn't give necessarily a strong yes to that question. Have you gotten any blowback about that?
No, in fact, thanks for bringing that up, Mike. I talked to Kelda last night, and she was classy enough to watch the video and saw that what happened was they asked me a very specific question. I was relating to that specific instance, and I went out of my way to even say I'm very impressed that Kelda, along with all the Democratic candidates, are trying to live up to a clean campaign pledge. So I am Switzerland in the governor's race. I want to make sure that we keep our eye on the prize, which is defeating Scott Walker, and I don't want to have my views misrepresented, so thank you for allowing me to say that.
So you do think she's honest and authentic?
I think she and all of the Democratic candidates are good, quality, honest people who will be outstanding governors, and any of them will beat Scott Walker.
Representative Mark Pocan, the Madison area Democrat. It's always good to have you on the program. Thanks very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
Senate leaders from both parties declaring Tammy Baldwin a frontrunner in Wisconsin's race for Senate, saying it's not one of their top-tier races anymore. ABC News political director Rick Klein joins me. Are Democrats taking Wisconsin for granted? And 8 Democrats in the race for governor, which we were just talking about, the unusual way one organization is trying to narrow the field for its followers.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.